In today's fast-paced world, it's hard not to be consumed by worry. Whether we are concerned about our relationships, health, finances, or our future, the weight of the world often feels unbearable. In the hustle of life, we are often surrounded by negativity and uncertainty. These pressures can quickly spiral into anxiety, overshadowing our thoughts and peace. Yet, Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, calls us to something radically different. He says, "Do not worry." These words, found repeatedly throughout the Bible, are not just a gentle reminder. They are a life-altering invitation to trust in God. In Luke 12:22-32, Jesus challenges his disciples to relinquish the need to worry about their daily lives, whether they will have food to eat or clothing to wear. By referencing the ravens and the lilies, he presents a simple yet profound truth. God provides for the birds of the air and the flowers in the field, so why would we, his beloved children, ever doubt his ability to provide for us? If God cares for the smallest creatures, Jesus asks, how much more will he care for you? This passage speaks to the heart of worry. It is rooted in a lack of trust. Worry makes us feel as though we are in control, as though we must control every aspect of our lives to survive. But God invites us to let go, to release the burden of control, and to place our trust in him. Instead of seeking to control the uncontrollable, we are called to focus on his faithfulness. God's promises assure us that he will always provide what we need. The question is not about whether we will receive, but whether we trust him to provide. In this section, the speaker highlights the importance of cultivating a gratitude mindset. Instead of focusing on what we don't have or the things that may not be going well, we are encouraged to recognize the many blessings God has already given us. Each moment is a gift, and gratitude for today helps us resist the urge to worry about tomorrow. The reflection on Jesus' words takes a deeper turn as we ask ourselves, why do we worry? Is it because we believe we can control the outcome of our lives, or is it because we don't truly trust God's plans? Many times, our anxiety comes from fear of the unknown. We often worry about things that we cannot predict or control, such as illness, financial instability, or relationship struggles. Fear of the future can paralyze us, preventing us from enjoying the present and trusting that God is leading us step by step. But the Bible calls us to trust in God's sovereignty, knowing that he is already in the future and will provide exactly what we need when we need it. Matthew 6:33 brings comfort here. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. This verse is not just a promise of provision. It's a call to seek God's presence above all else. When we make God our priority, we align our hearts with his will, and the burdens of life seem lighter in comparison. As we trust God with our future, we are free to live in the present, without the weight of worry dragging us down. This is not a passive faith. It is an active choice to trust and follow his leading. The speaker encourages us to practice moment-to-moment trust, to choose to trust in God's provision and care in every situation, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem. By consciously choosing trust over worry, we strengthen our relationship with God and discover the freedom that comes with living in his peace. In a world where information and responsibilities constantly bombard us, it's easy to get caught in the cycle of worry. The mind races with countless thoughts, concerns over health, finances, relationships, the future, and even things beyond our control. These worries keep us from experiencing the present moment fully. They cloud our judgment and limit our ability to truly live and enjoy each day. Jesus, in his divine wisdom, gave us clear counsel on how to deal with worry. Do not be anxious about your life. Matthew 6:25-27. This isn't just a suggestion. It's an invitation to embrace faith and trust over anxiety. Worry often comes from a place of fear. The fear of the unknown. The fear of what could happen in the future. And the fear of our lack of control. But in Matthew 6, Jesus reminds us that worrying does nothing to change our circumstances. Not a single hour is added to our lives by worrying. In fact, worry only drains us and clouds our judgment. It's a thief that robs us of our joy and peace. The more we allow it to take root, the more we become trapped in a mental cycle that hinders our ability to live joyfully. Instead of focusing on the uncertainties of tomorrow, the Bible calls us to focus on God's present provision. Jesus uses the example of the birds of the air and the flowers in the field, creatures that do not toil or struggle for what they need, yet are fully provided for by God. He says, "Are you not of more value than they?" Matthew 6:26. This question isn't just rhetorical. It's a profound reminder that God values us infinitely more than the birds and flowers He cares for. If He provides for them, how much more will He provide for us? This promise calls us to rest in God's faithfulness and trust that He will meet our needs. Letting go of worry involves recognizing that God is in control. We are called to release our fears, step away from the what-ifs, and trust that God's perfect will is at work in our lives. By focusing on His care for us, we are freed from the burden of anxiety. Instead of magnifying our problems, we begin to magnify God's greatness, His provision, His care, His love. As we focus on His promises, we realize that His presence is enough for today. When we seek Him first, we find peace in the present moment. Ultimately, letting go of worry requires intentional action. It's a choice we make each day to trust in God's faithfulness. We are invited to bring our concerns to Him, surrender them, and focus on His goodness. Worry will never lead us to the peace we desire. Only faith in God's provision can do that. So today, choose to trust, choose to let go, and choose to focus on what God has provided in this moment. In times of distress and uncertainty, prayer is the greatest weapon we have to combat worry and anxiety. It is not merely a way to ask for things, but an opportunity to connect with God and surrender our fears. Through prayer, we can acknowledge God's sovereignty and trustworthiness, bringing our burdens before Him and experiencing His peace that surpasses all understanding. The speaker invites us to pray. First, a prayer of surrender. When we come before God, we acknowledge that He is in control of our lives and that our worries are not burdens we need to carry alone. The prayer begins with a declaration. We are not anxious about anything because God is in control. This is a declaration of faith. Faith that no matter the challenges we face, we know that God is with us. We are safe in His hands. The prayer acknowledges that we are not defined by our worries, but by the care and protection of our Father. A key part of the prayer is asking God to guide us through difficult times. Trust in God's guidance is essential. It is a reminder that He will never leave us nor forsake us. When we walk through uncertainty, we are not alone. God's guidance brings clarity and direction, even when the road ahead is unclear. The prayer also asks God to protect us from all that would harm us, whether it be physical, emotional, or spiritual. With His protection, we can face challenges with confidence. The prayer also calls for peace to reign in our hearts. It declares, "We are at peace in our hearts, and it is well with us, because we are in your care." This is a declaration of inner peace. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, but on the faithfulness of God. No matter what we face, we can choose peace, knowing that God's peace surpasses our understanding and guards our hearts and minds. As we conclude the prayer, we ask for God's strength to carry us through life's challenges. We acknowledge that His grace is sufficient, even in our weakest moments. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. Through prayer, we invite God's presence to fill us with peace, confidence, and trust, enabling us to face the future without fear. In the battle against worry, gratitude is one of our greatest allies. When we focus on what we lack or what may go wrong, Worry begins to overshadow our hearts. But when we choose to be grateful, our hearts are filled with peace, and the weight of worry is lifted. Gratitude shifts our focus from problems to the goodness of God. The speaker calls us to focus on the blessings we have, even in the midst of difficulty. Gratitude does not deny that we may be facing challenges. Rather, it acknowledges the reality of those challenges, while also acknowledging God's provision. As we give thanks for what we have, we begin to magnify God's goodness instead of our problems. The Bible reminds us to give thanks in all things, for God's grace is always sufficient, no matter the circumstances. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Gratitude becomes a declaration that we trust God, not just in the good times, but in the challenging ones as well. As we shift our focus to gratitude, we also shift our perspective on life. Worry magnifies our problems, while gratitude magnifies the faithfulness of God. The more we express gratitude, the more we open our hearts to receive God's peace and strength. Gratitude helps us recognize that God is always at work, even when we cannot see it. By focusing on the blessings we have, we are freed from the grip of worry. The speaker encourages us to start each day by choosing gratitude, giving thanks for the gift of life, for the provision we have today, and for the hope that God gives us. Gratitude transforms our hearts and helps us live by faith, not by fear. It shifts our focus from the uncertainties of life to the certainty of God's love and provision. When we trust in God's timing, we align ourselves with His perfect plan. God is never in a hurry, He is always on time. When we experience delays, or when things don't go according to our own plans, we may feel anxious or frustrated. But God's timing is always perfect, and He never makes mistakes. His ways are higher than our ways, and His plans are always for our good. In trusting His timing, we acknowledge that He is in control, even when we cannot see the whole picture. The speaker reminds us that peace comes from trusting God's perfect plan, even when it feels like we are walking through uncertainty. The peace of God doesn't depend on our circumstances, but is rooted in the assurance of His love and sovereignty. Trusting in God's timing means surrendering our own agenda and allowing His plans to unfold in their due season. As we walk by faith, we are reminded that God's timing is never too early and never too late. This section emphasizes that peace is found in the present moment, not in worrying about what will happen tomorrow or in the future. God promises to provide everything we need today, and He will take care of tomorrow in His time. The peace that we experience when we trust God's timing transcends understanding. It's a peace that guards our hearts and minds, helping us to stay calm and focused in the face of uncertainty. As we conclude, the speaker encourages us to embrace God's timing, to trust His process, and to live in the peace He provides. Resting in His perfect timing brings an unparalleled peace, one that strengthens our faith and encourages us to walk boldly in His will. We can be confident that God's plans for us are always good, and He will bring them to fruition at the right time. In a world that often feels uncertain, we can find security and confidence, not in the world around us, but in the unwavering promises of God. Worry often comes from focusing on the temporary, the things we cannot control. It pulls our hearts away from the one true source of peace. However, God's peace transcends all understanding, and this peace can be ours if we choose to embrace it daily. The Bible gives us clear instruction on how to approach life with trust, not relying on our own understanding, but leaning fully on God. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. This verse is a powerful reminder that true peace comes when we submit our concerns to God and trust in His will. It is not about understanding everything, but about trusting Him with everything. When we lay down our worries, we make room for faith to grow and for God's peace to fill the spaces where fear once resided. We live in a world that bombards us with distractions, worries, and uncertainties. But we have a choice to trust in God's perfect plan for our lives. Even when the road ahead is unclear, God's path is sure. Each step we take in faith leads us closer to His heart. The speaker encourages us to trust that God is orchestrating our lives with a purpose far greater than we can comprehend. We are invited to make gratitude a daily habit, to give thanks not only for what God has already done, but also for what He is going to do. Our trust in God's promises can transform our worries into praise. When we trust in His provision, we no longer feel overwhelmed by fear or doubt. Instead, we experience the peace that passes understanding, a peace that guards our hearts and minds. As we close this time of reflection, let us remember that God is in control of everything, our lives, our futures, and our circumstances. We may not know what tomorrow holds, but we know who holds tomorrow. God's love is constant, His provision is faithful, and His peace is available to us at every moment. We can choose peace instead of worry, trust instead of fear, and faith instead of doubt. The invitation is clear. Stop worrying and start trusting. Give your worries to God and experience the freedom that comes from living fully in His peace. As you step forward into your day, know that you are covered by the love and protection of the Almighty. Choose to live each moment in faith and gratitude, knowing that you are not alone. God is with you, He will guide you, and His peace will keep you.